Good morning, it's DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Monday morning. We are closing in on the start of college football now. Can you believe this? We are 12 days away from the Utes, Cougars, and Aggies season opener, and I, for one, am ready. And we got some news on that coming up. College football, the Big Ten floating 24 and 2018 playoff proposals. Oh, man. All right, we'll get to that in our next segment and later this morning, too. Let's start off with a team that had a bad weekend, and that would be Real Salt Lake. They went to Charlotte, a team that's excellent at home. They got beat 1-0, gave up a goal on a set piece in the first half. Couldn't score, playing shorthanded. Diego Luna with the red card. He was out. There were so many things that happened in this game. 3 minutes into the game, Charlotte's best player is frustrated and grabs a McAnally by the neck and throws him down. Now, hands to the face, hands to the neck, violent conduct, all those things can get you a red card, but of course he got a yellow. And at the same, almost within like 30 seconds of that, there's a play at the other end of the field where RSL was attacking and Xavier Gozo hits a cross and it hit Tim Ream's hand, clear as day, and it was away from his body, and they didn't call it. But the VAR saw it and thought, well, that's a handball, and they tell the ref, go look at it in the monitor. It looks like a handball. And what do the refs say? No, that's not a handball. Although the ball hit the hand, and the hand wasn't against the body. So Pablo Mastroeni after the game was a little more than frustrated. As a matter of fact, I opened up by asking, the first question was, what'd they tell you about the handball? I didn't even go to the hands around the neck. That came up later. But it went right to the handball, and he just voluntarily brings up what he's told by the league during the week about the Red Bull game last weekend when there were 2 penalties and 2 red cards and an elbow to the face that didn't get called. So Pablo's on one. Here he is after the game.
The foul on Luna should have been called before the altercation. So, DJ, I'm at a loss as to how things work, how VAR plays a role. It just seems like the more we're involved, the further away we get to uncovering how this whole system works.
Olatunji makes his first appearance. The heel flick to himself was fairly spectacular, but there were stretches where he didn't look that connected, which might be not very many training sessions with a group. How do you assess the performance of a guy who's had so little time with the group?
Yeah, and he hasn't had a full preseason either, and I think it's just, we're up against time, and the most important thing is that he completed the game. I thought he had some really good actions. He's still trying to understand the way we press, the way we attack. But I think you saw in that one play what he's capable of. I think he had a couple really good moments. And again, that's why this window is so difficult in this league, right? Because the players you get more than likely aren't going to be fit. And now we have 8 games left to try to get him up to speed, learn the tactics, know his teammates, understand the league, play on grass, play on turf, travel 5 hours. So it's not an easy endeavor, but he's a real committed player. I think he's gonna help us out a ton.
Didn't seem like there was much direct play over the top, which we've come to see. Maybe some opportunities to get him behind. Tim Ream's 37, test him a little bit. Was that part of the game plan, or is it just the way things went as it unfolded?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's a double-edged sword, DJ, where I think we could have exploited that space behind a little bit more, but we also wanted to control the game with the ball, knowing that they were going to be in a block and find our moments to kind of to play between the lines. And I think we did a good job of that, in particular in the second half, finding Diogo in central positions where he's able to turn and then feed our forwards. Because again, this is a team that's real dangerous in transition, and again, long balls put you in a position where you won't control the game as much, although it could be more dangerous to score goals. To your point, but again, I think that's definitely an area that we'll look at and continue to work on. And I think a big part of that was we weren't able to find Pablo Ruiz in this game. Part of it was his movement. A part of it was the quickness of our rotations was a bit slow at times. And again, Pablo Ruiz is the player that unlocks defenses behind the back line, and we just weren't able to find him enough.
Luna suspended for Minnesota. Gozo suspended. Agata is suspended. Is it just next man up? What do you do without that? That's a lot of goals and assists there.
Yeah, I think my message to the team is like, listen, I come in every game and I'm like, relatively speaking, we play a good game tactically. Um, the margins in this league are so thin. We got beat on a set piece tonight. And really what it comes down to, DJ, is making plays. And so my challenge to the group is like, listen, the effort was there, the commitment was there, the tactical understanding was there. But at the end of the day, and I've said this in the past, is you got to make a play on offense. And it doesn't matter if it's from a set piece, run a play, a long throw. You just got to hit the back of the net. We've got to have somebody that's willing to take the burden of scoring the goal for us, right? And so that's my challenge to the group. And so with those two out, the next two will step in, and the expectations are the same. We need to make a play.
Last one for me. The summer transfer window closes the 21st. Is the club all done, or might something happen?
There's still a possibility that something may happen, but again, I think it's going to go down to the wire whether or not it comes through to fruition.
Thank you, Pablo.
Yep.
Caleb Turner, you're next, and we'll come in the room here with Maddie Casey.
Thanks for hopping on, Pablo. We talked about the handball already, but there was also that the yellow on Zaha right in front of your bench that seemed like it could have been violent conduct, and then a couple out of bounds calls that probably should have been corners for your team that didn't get called corners. I saw Sam Junka after one of those corner calls. Just reading his lips, looked like he said, "What's going on?" It's one thing you watch it from the sidelines and on TV, but for your guys that are on the field going through it, is the frustration mounting?
No, I think unfortunately it is, and again, I think it goes back to just consistency, and I'm just bemused at what has occurred in the last couple games. Again, it's not deliberate, but it just seems like we're on the wrong side of these moments. And I always talk about moments change games, right? So if the penalty, obviously, if someone upstairs calls, because her thing, the referee's stance was that his arms were in a natural position. So therefore, the communications with VAR, if the VAR referee sends her to the video, the monitor, there's obviously some discrepancy in what they're both seeing, right? And so it just feels like, week after week, we're on the phone with the people at Pro and talking about what this is. And I think the Mecca thing is real too. Grabbing somebody by the head and neck and throwing them to the ground is like, I used to think that was a red card. And we've been red carded for things that were just innocent. And so again, I think the biggest struggle for me, and I think the players as well, is just the consistency in what we're dealing with and trying to navigate what is acceptable and what is not. And I think that does lead to frustrations, and it does lead to focusing on things beyond your control, which is something we talk about. But again, these players are humans, right? And if they feel like they're being hard done, you're not going to just go, oh, but our coach told us to be just control the controllables. They're competitors. They're in the arena. And so, but again, that's obviously not our focal point. We've got to help ourselves and make plays on both sides of the ball. The set piece, on all our set pieces, I think we got to do a better job. We got to be more aggressive. We got to be willing to, I've always said in the past where, attacking set pieces is about people that are willing to break their neck to score a goal. Right. And that's not evident. Right. You've got to be willing to put yourself in a vulnerable position to make a play. And obviously they had a player that was willing to do that, and we haven't. So we've got to rethink our mentality on those plays on set pieces. Because again, like I said, the margins are really, really thin. And every play matters.
Appreciate it, Pablo.
Maddie Casey here in the room, and then we'll finish up with Carlos Artiles after that.
Hey, Pablo, what was the message to the team in the locker room immediately after the loss?
It was just about, listen, we come in, there's been a lot of performances this year where tactically it was well done. The effort was top. But what's been eluding us, I think, is making plays in that final third, and there's some great stuff in there. There's some really good opportunities. But like there's a belief factor that needs to be a part of our psyche where we're believing as individuals that we're greater than what we really are. This alter ego that says I'm gonna put this in the top shelf, and it just feels like there's a little bit of doubt in the choice of shot or the type of shot, where there needs to be more conviction. And then make plays defensively on the goal that we conceded. The game is about moments, and moments drive momentum, right? And so if we want to make a run at these playoffs, we've got to start believing that we are going to make plays in these difficult moments that the best players make, right? And we have a talented group, and so that's my challenge to them: is you've got to believe you're going to score a goal before you receive the ball. And then everything comes into play. But if there's any doubt or we're apathetic because things aren't going our way with the calls, then we're going to struggle to win games. Because at the end of the day, the game is won and lost in milliseconds. And tonight was the same case.
Well, thank you. What did you see from Cruz and Victor Olatunji and Diogo, specifically those three?
Yeah, I think the first half, I think both halves, I think the guys did a pretty good job. I think in the second half, I think Diogo, we ended up going 1-2, and I think Diogo did a really good job of finding some good pockets. Our pivots and our back line did a really good job of finding Diogo in tight spaces, and then releasing Gozo and Victor and Juan in those pockets. And so again, I think we've been dangerous. I think I think we had like 6 or 7 shots on goal tonight. And in these games, especially as an away team, what I really like is that we play the same way whether we're home or away. And that's really hard to get to a point as a group where you believe you can do that, right? The next part of it is we need one of those to hit the back of the net. And now we can control the game on our terms, right? But I think the three of them did a good job. My expectations for Victor and Juan is that it's going to take a little bit of time. And unfortunately, we're up against time. And that's the difficult part. But I think with the performance tonight, they did a good job. And we need to just take it up one step from this performance. And I think the guys will do it.
And then last one for me, I was curious to see how Agata was going to respond to hitting the bench now with these new additions. What did you see from him when he came on?
I thought he was really impactful on both sides of the ball. I think defensively he did a great job pressing. Offensively got into really good spots and had a couple shots on goal. So again, I think it's a position where in the past few years he's been accustomed to coming into games and changing them. I thought he did that for us tonight. Unfortunately, he won't be available for the next game, but I thought it was a really good performance coming off the bench.
Thanks very much.
Yep.
There's Pablo Mastroeni after the game. Now, all the talk's going to be about the refereeing, and I understand that. There have been big calls and big no calls, and it doesn't make any sense, and they're game-changing plays. I mean, RSL could have been up a goal and a man 3 minutes into the game. Now, having said that, maybe they don't convert the penalty. Maybe they give up a goal a man down. I mean, who's to say, right? But, man, their odds would have been really good, and that's the second time this has happened. They had a chance to be up a goal and up a man in Nashville, and they didn't get a call that looked incredibly obvious. So, but all that aside, I thought Pablo in there, when he was asked about the problems, and he volunteered, and I think this is spot on. I totally agree with him. He said it's about belief, and this team does not believe. If you go back to Pablo's first year when he takes over midseason, I don't know that they had any business winning some of the games they won, especially the last game of the regular season and the playoffs, but they did because they really believed. And the difference between a team that hopes to win and a team that expects to win is massive. A team that hopes to get a goal or score a touchdown or hit a home run, that's different than the team that expects to score a goal, expects to score a touchdown, expects to hit a home run. And they had it in 21, and they don't have it right now. And I thought that was pretty clear watching the game. They were doing the right things, but not with real conviction in the final and third. Not like, this is going to happen. It was more like, I hope something happens. And the odds of something happening at that point go way down. All right, after the game, Justen Glad, he's the leader. What a bad time to be the leader. So, nonetheless, they asked him to come do postgame, and he did. Didn't seem thrilled about it. I don't blame him for not being thrilled, but he did the right thing showing up, that's for sure. Here's Justen Glad after the loss in Charlotte.
Hey, Justin, a couple frustrating road trips for you guys out there to the East Coast. Was there any element of like fatigue, after a long, tough game last week and then having to make the long trek out there again this week?
No, I wouldn't say there's an element of fatigue. I mean, it's a long season every year, and you got away trips every year. Yeah.
And then just, speaking to the frustration of some of the officiating calls, talking to Pablo, he said it's mostly just the inconsistency that seems frustrating. For you guys on the field, does it feel like things are inconsistent from game to game?
Yeah, I would say so. I think this game and the last game, I think there's been maybe some questionable calls. But they just put their hand up and then we move on to the next. We take 2 L's, and I don't really know. It is a little frustrating for sure because, I don't know, maybe Willie gets a handball early in the year off of a header that he's not even looking at the ball, and he's clearly jumping up for the header, and that's an unnatural position, I guess, but this one's not. So I don't know. It is frustrating.
And then the only goal tonight scored on that free kick. You had the foul that set up the free kick, and then just maybe talk us through giving up that header and how you guys can improve on those set pieces.
Yeah, I mean, we just gotta clear the ball. I don't know. We'll work on it this week. I don't have an answer right at the moment.
Okay, appreciate it, Justin.
Cheers.
Go ahead, Matty.
Hey, Jay. So you got a foul called against you, a yellow card for what I would consider a soccer play, going on a tackle where, it's just a little bit, the timing was off. But then the calls weren't going the other way on what I would consider non-soccer plays. I'm specifically referring to Zaha throwing Emeka down by his neck.
Yep.
How do you stay aggressive in a game when it's difficult knowing what the ref's going to call and what they're not?
Yeah, it's tough, definitely. Obviously after I pick up a yellow, it's hard to go as hard because you're worried about getting a red. Again, I don't want to speak too much on the refereeing tonight, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to get you fined. You're one of the leaders on the back line. Obviously, next week you're going to be playing with a new back line. How do you, as one of the leaders in the team, how do you help integrate new players like Juan and Victor while you're simultaneously, working with new defensive partners every week?
Yeah, I think the defensive part is a little easier just because they've been around the whole year, and it's got a lot of trust, a lot of faith with anyone we put in there. But just getting Victor and Juan on the same page and it's always hard joining a new team and learning the system, how we press and all that. But I think they've done a fantastic job there. They're working every day to understand it and to improve it. So yeah, I think that part, obviously, it does take a little bit of time. Obviously, we're at a point in the season where you don't have much time to really figure things out. But I think they're going to be, I think they'll be solid and get on the same page quick.
And then last one for me, 5 of the next 7 at home. As you said, points are valuable at this point. What's the focus of the team going into a home stand?
Yeah, no, we just need to win games. Obviously, we want to play good soccer and all that, but at this point, it's just about picking up points. Pretty ugly, doesn't matter. We just need to make sure we get as many points as possible and get above that playoff line.
All right, there's Justen Glad after the loss in Charlotte. All right, DJ and PK, we're going to take a break. When we come back, BYU basketball coach Kevin Young is going to join us on the show. We got to talk about that. And also we have to talk about the Big Ten proposal to add more playoff, maybe go screaming past 16 to 24 or 28 teams. That's coming up next. Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Monday morning. Coming up, we've got BYU basketball coach Kevin Young joining us. He's going to be here at 9 o'clock, and there's a lot to talk to him about. One thing is the nature of college basketball changing, and there are so many things changing all at once, right? We know about the transfer portal. It's massive. And another thing, obviously, NIL. And certainly for BYU, the NIL numbers are massive. I think Utah and Utah State are dishing out a fair amount of money. Nowhere near what BYU is dishing out, but nonetheless a considerable chunk of money. So we can talk to him about that. But I also think that this really impacts a lot of the top high school players in the state. And partly it's the NIL, but and partly it's BYU's new goals, that they want to routinely be not just an NCAA tournament team, but routinely be a Sweet 16 team, right? And then in your big years, Elite Eight, Final Four, national championship game, national title, right? So what does this do to the local guys? And there's going to be a lot of crying and gnashing of teeth. Because a lot of kids and their parents and their grandparents have grown up literally for decades and for generations dreaming of playing for the local school, whoever, whatever down the street from whatever school, wherever dad or grandpa or mom played or whatever, whether that was go to BYU or go to Utah. And the odds of that happening are going down. And they're going down quickly. And we'll talk with Kevin about this. And I know they still recruit local kids, right? And BYU just signed a local kid, but he was a top 100 kid. And how many of those are there going to be? How often? One a year, one every other year, one every third year. It seems to run in cycles. There seemed to be a lot of top recruits in the 90s, and it seemed to have dropped off, although there were still some along the way, no doubt. And I think that, it's really important to look at the scoreboard and to look at the standings. BYU, for years, since the end of Rick Majerus, Rick did a great job of getting the best players in the state. But that changed. And from, 05 to 20, BYU got most of the best players in the state. Not all of them. Leverage went to Utah, and they had NCAA teams while he was there. And obviously Sam Merrill went to Utah State, right? And they were really good when he was there. There are other examples too, but I think the vast majority of those kids went to BYU. And when BYU, their bread and butter was local kids, they were routinely finishing third in the West Coast Conference. And they were routinely going out in the tournament semis, maybe the final, often the semis. And now they're in the Big 12. And man, there's 16 teams in there, and they are no joke. Half that league can go to the NCAA tournament. And the truth is, there's probably 12 programs that can go fairly often now, depending on who's having a big year and who has injuries, right? You're probably not going to get more than about 8 teams in. But that doesn't mean that beating teams 9, 10, 11, and 12 is easy. It's not. It's difficult. So if you go with the same roster that was finished in third in the West Coast Conference, where do you think you're going to end up in the Big 12? Somewhere between 5 and 12, depending on the year. And can you win with freshmen? Can you afford to pay freshmen? Or even with all of BYU's NIL money, do they need to invest that in the top 8 players who are going to play? And does a kid want to go to BYU, not get NIL money, and be player 14? Or get very little NIL money when they can go somewhere else and be the star and play? Now, I really think the equation is changing here for local kids. And I'll be interested to talk with Kevin about this, on the record, on the air, and see what he says. I kind of got an idea of what he's saying behind the scenes. So I want to see how much of it he's going to say on the air. My guess is he's going to say it all, but we'll see. He's going to be here at 9 o'clock, and PK and I both find this topic really interesting, so we'll delve into it. And I also wonder, does that mean these local kids fall to Weber State and to UVU and to Southern Utah and to Utah Tech, or do these kids go out of state? We're seeing more football players being willing to go out of state. And I think the equation is changing quickly for basketball players. And will we see local kids still at these schools, but will we see them as bounce-back kids? Maybe you play your high school basketball here, you go somewhere else and play for 2 years, and then, man, if you get a chance to play in the Big 12, you get a chance to come home and play for the Cougars or the Utes, maybe the Aggies in the Pac-12. Is that going to become a common path? And if so, will it be at one of those schools, or will it be at 2 or 3 of them? All things to talk to Kevin Young about, and I find all those things fascinating. So we'll talk with him coming up at 9 o'clock. We're going to talk football with Kevin Graham at 8 o'clock, and one of the topics we're going to have to talk to him is his recent story, the Big Ten has proposed 24 and 2018 playoffs. I think a couple things. One, I'm sure the reporting is correct, and I think people jump on the reporting too quickly. It's the times we live in. Everybody likes to be a contrarian and claim someone else is doing something just for clicks. I think the reporting is accurate. I think when you say it's being considered, it's been floated, that's true. It also doesn't mean it's going to happen. It might happen, but there's also, we've now seen at least 4 different plans, 12 teams, 16 teams, 24, 28 teams. We've seen them all floated. We've seen automatic bids and then the rest at large. We've seen a plan where leagues are getting multiple automatic bids, 2, 3, or 4, depending on which league you are and which plan we're talking about. I think what we're seeing is a desire from the Big Ten, which means a desire from Fox, to create more games. They want more inventory. There's an appetite for college football, and there are networks that want games, and there are TV windows to put them in. And quite frankly, there are millions of Americans who will watch these games. And the TV networks will pay the schools for them. So I think one way or another, we're going to get more games. Because I'm going to watch them, PK is going to watch them, Jake's going to watch them, you're going to watch them, maybe not all of them, many of them. So why have a conference championship weekend and only have, 6 or 8 games? Does that make any sense? 4 conference championship games in the 4 power leagues, and maybe people watch the Mountain West title game or the Pac-12 title game or the American or whatever, but realistically, they want more Power 4 teams playing. And they want you to sit there and watch 3 or 4 games. And ESPN would like to have 3 games on ABC and 3 games on ESPN. And Fox would like to have 3 more games on Fox and maybe, 2 or 3 games over there on FS1. And how do you do that? Well, either you have the 3rd and 6th place teams play for an automatic bid, or the 4th and 5th place teams play for automatic bids, or you make a bigger tournament. Now you can say, well, it's a bigger tournament, it's going to water it down. Yeah, probably. But is it going to water it down so much people don't watch? I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that. I mean, will it get the numbers that the semis and the finals are getting? No. But will the fans of the 2 teams watch? Yes, in big numbers. Will people who gamble on the game watch? Yes. Will people who root for the team, the winner's going to play the winner of this game, watch? Yes, they will. I mean, will people who love football watch because it's football? Yes, they will. Well, then you can make money off it. And this is not a new story. Why did the NBA expand to 16 teams in the mid-'80s? Why did the NCAA tournament go from 32 teams in 1975 to 64 teams in 1984? And despite the fact that is a beautiful tournament, why did it go to 65 teams to 68 teams? And why are they talking about 72 or 76? Because more games equals more money, because people will watch the games. So, do I think this is going to 28? No, I really don't. But is it going to go to 16 or 24? Yes, I believe it will. I believe it will. More games equals more money. And they're also figuring out, they think that this will have a multiplier effect across all of late October, November, that there'll be more teams still in the mix and more people will watch those games. You've still got a chance. I mean, the NBA went from letting in 4 teams in the West to 6 to 8. More teams have a chance. I mean, they don't, but people still watch those games and they make money off them. Why did the baseball playoffs, 2 divisions was fine? Why did they go to 3 divisions and a wild card? More postseason inventory. Why did they add a second wild card? Why did they add a 3rd wild card? Why did the NFL add a 7th playoff team in each conference? Was anybody really screaming for that? No, but there were TV windows. And there were viewers, and people will watch, and they'll make money. It's going to happen. Follow the yellow brick road. College football is just doing what the NFL's already done. If they're smart, they would have done it before the NFL and staked their claim to some of those windows. But they're going to do it now. It does feel like that. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, David Locke talking hoops. Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. David Locke joined us late in the show on Friday. Talked a little hoops with him. And then we also talked about Larry Markin, really interesting topic. And we also talked football with him. He grew up going to Stanford games with his dad. He didn't go to school there, but he rooted for the team. They had great memories. They bonded, as so many of us do, with family and friends. And now Stanford's in the ACC. Hey. David Locke, talking football and talking hoops right here on The Zone. David, first time we've talked to you since Arden won it. Congrats to her.
First time
I
you
talked to her. Yeah.
I talked to PK.
Yeah, I was on vacation.
Yeah, and PK texts me during. I mean, he seems to actually care. I mean, just point that out. Thanks, PK. Love you, bud.
You're welcome.
I'm right there with you. Yeah. Yeah, it was great. And then Bandon Dunes was amazing. That was really an incredible experience. And the Utah Golf Association just does such an incredible job. And the Utah Junior Golf Association here, really probably one of the most untalked about stories we have had over the last few years between Boston Bracken and Southern Utah, Bowen Moss, Kihei, Kihei's brother, the Shelleys. I mean, there's just been that's the Ponaches. Like, there's just been family after family after family of just these incredible golfers, and I mean, they're pumping out 5, 6, 7, 8, big time Division I golfers every year.
Where's Bowen Moss going to play golf?
I think he's going to. Isn't he going to Arizona State? Didn't he leave Oklahoma State and going to Arizona State?
Yeah, I just wanted to hear you say that.
Fair point. Sorry, I thought it was a legitimate question for a brief moment. I'm not quite on my game yet this morning. My fault.
Oh, like you wouldn't do it when Stanford was flying high in football. Get out of town.
There's some sincerity. There was some real sincerity there. Gosh, how should have jet lag gets me right there. The fact that it feels like it's 4:30 in the morning right now. Maybe it just caught me. I think that's it's just really. I mean, I really do. I think what Jeff Thurman does with the Utah Golf Association, and then also what Colin and everyone's doing with the Utah Golf Association, probably should be talked about more. It's really, for a place that doesn't have golf 12 months a year, people are always awfully surprised with the quality of the kids that come out here, and the program, and the collegiate program at BYU is so good. So maybe Utah will add women's golf one of these days.
It is college football season, and PK just referenced Stanford. BYU will play Stanford week 2. Is there any chance with an interim coach and everything in transition that Stanford's going to put together a good team this year, or does this just feel like a transition year and this is going to be rough and you're going to watch something else?
On a personal note, and I don't know if it's just because of conference realignment. I do think it's because of that, but I don't know anything. I mean, I'm totally disengaged. I didn't know we even played BYU in week 2. It's really what has taken place for me, and the team's terrible, right? So let's not ignore the fact that, like, simultaneously to conference realignment, and actually I don't care about nil, but conference realignment I do care about. Simultaneously that Stanford got terrible. Okay, so. But I will tell you, I just am not. I don't know anything. I'm not engaged. When they play Florida State, it just doesn't mean anything to me. If they play Duke, I just don't care. So as I am one who, and I didn't go to school there, I'm just a fan, but the whole part to me about being a fan was the fact that Dad and I went to games, and that we have these memories, and that every week I could call, and if we were playing Washington, you were remembering John Elway's scramble and Vinnie White's punt return, and that there were just these various moments in time that mattered to you. And I just don't have those anymore at all. And so I look at the schedule, and there's not a single game on the schedule that makes me go, oh, I'm fired up for that, other than maybe playing Cal. And so I'm a casualty of either one of two things: terrible football or the modern system. And I do think Nil's going to impact some people just because of, but mine's conference realignment, that they've just taken away the history. And by taking away the history, they've taken away my fandom.
Yeah, you hit that last time, and I get it. We'll have to have some changes down the road. And I've been talking to David Shaw after he left Stanford. He was talking about there will be a time where there'll be some more geographical common sense, where we're just going to have to wade through these times and get. I have a feeling it's going to be like we're going to look back and the way we do now with baseball stadiums and think about those concrete, no personal flair, no form of charm whatsoever stadiums that were also used for football, and we look back and we say, what the heck were they doing then? Why did they build those stadiums when now they've got these stadiums that, you know, are on grass and they show the city to a good degree, or the warehouse building, whatever it might be. I think years from now, when we're long gone, people are going to look back. Wait a second, you're telling me Stanford and Cal played in the Atlantic Coast Conference when they were literally minutes away from the Pacific Ocean, and they played in the Atlantic Coast Conference? So David Shaw was saying there will be some common sense will be restored, and you're just going to have to wait until then.
I would hope so. I don't know. You know, I also think Stanford has to make some really honest evaluations of like what they're trying to do or not trying to do, and their previous athletic director was malpractice. So that, I think, has hurt them a great deal.
You are the radio voice of the Utah Jazz, and the schedule just came out in a year where, you know, the Jazz have made deep playoff runs, and you look at big games and rematches with other potential teams. I get some of the attraction of that. But in a year where we're just looking at 3 rookies, 3 second-year guys, and 3 third-year guys, and seeing who can really emerge and, you know, grab their opportunity and show what they can do, that could be any night against any opponent. So I don't really see what the schedule, unless you're, you know, you want to see the Joker when he comes to town, or you're a Laker fan from Southern California, you want to see them when it comes to town. But as far as just purely the Jazz, I just don't see it having that much impact.
I agree. I do think the schedule has a really, when you're good, I think it's actually really important. Like, there's some interesting notes on Denver and how their road home split is really one-sided. I think they're really road heavy early, and then they play something like 20 of their last 30, I think, at home. Those things, I think, really matter. I think that's bad for Denver, by the way. Like, you know, I think they'll start poorly, and people, whether we all remember this or not, people will worry about it. I think they're, you know, because they have as big a home court advantage as anyone. I do think with good teams, schedule really, really matters. Like, it's a game or two, and we've seen what a game or two does, right? You're right. For the Jazz, I think, you know, what jumped out to me is every NBA schedule has kind of one brutal stretch. I'm not, you know, that's the reality. It's never equally distributed. In fact, the one year where I think it was most equally distributed was maybe one of the worst years I've ever been through from a fatigue standpoint, because you never got a reset. And we play, I think we're gone 17 of 20 nights from December 31st to January 18th. Like, so that jumped out at me. Otherwise, there aren't a lot of stretches where you're like, oh dear, you know, what's going to happen? But yeah, you want to know when Cooper Flagg's coming to town, and when you're getting that matchup, and when you're going to see, you know, I think, you know, there's some games that maybe don't, you know, the Spurs obviously have incredible intrigue with Victor, and then you want your Giannis trip and those things. So I agree with you 100%. I don't think I look at this and say, wow, this is really going to change the season, or that. The only one I was a little interested in, and I couldn't find it, was is there any stretch where they could gain some confidence? And maybe early. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but early is particularly soft. So you've got the Clippers and Sacramento, who are both – Clippers are good, Sacramento's okay. Phoenix and Portland, who might not be great. Back to Phoenix, then to Charlotte, then to Boston, who might not be great. Like, it's actually – I mean, we could lose all of them too, because we're – you know, over under, we're the worst team in the league. But it just, I thought that was nice. Like, the early part of the season isn't murderer's row, where we're going to go start the year by shouldn't start the year by getting our head beat in by 20 every night.
We've seen the Jazz jettison the older players, all except one, essentially, and obviously that is marketing. And this whatever Euro tournament they got going on now, he's lighting it up, and to no surprise, because he's going to be better than the competition that he's playing in, and he's really good when he is engaged. I'm not sure that was going on last season, but nevertheless, a new season is shortly upon us. And they can't give him away, essentially, what they did for the other guys. So what do you think is going to happen here?
I think there's a few reasons why I think he stays. And I think he's on the roster when we play our next playoff game. So one is the salary floor is real. Like the league rules that you have to have a certain amount of salary on your roster is I think it's 90% of the salary cap, which is part of the new collective bargaining agreement that like Draymond Green seems to forget when he's talking about all the problems for players. He's not actually talking about the fact that there's now a 90% salary floor, so all the players are getting paid more. And when you have to get there. Otherwise, that money goes into a pool. It's not even like the old days where it goes into your own players, and so they benefit. So that's one. Two is you do need to have Lowry's not blocking anyone's minutes. Like I think there was a real question that like Colin and some of those guys might have been blocking some minutes. And then number three is you actually have to have some semblance of the ability to play and some good players to allow everyone to develop. And then number four is there has to be a path to being good again. And so the path is that Ace Bailey hits to some level, right? Like, let's say he's, could be on the upside. He's a Jason Tatum type. Okay, so that means by year 3 or year 4, he's really, really good. And let's say that you're drafting whomever next year and that they click and they're 3 or 4. Okay, you need to have this because now if you have Lowry and Ace Bailey clicks in and next year's player clicks in, and let's say 2 of the other 6 become rotation players, now you have a bunch of players under cost control. Lowry's making 40, which is probably too much in this marketplace for Lowry. But the other players are all under cost control, and you have space. Now you go in this new day and age where it's going to be so difficult for everyone to hold on to players or accumulate multiple players. Now you go grab a $35 million or a $40 million player, and while Lowry probably needs to be your 3rd best player on a really good team, his $45 million is too much money for that. And so when you start to think about how Lowry fits, well, Lowry fits in the sense that if he's making $40 million and he's your 3rd best player because Ace Bailey's clicked in and you just went and signed your best player, and so those 2 guys are now your top players, then it works. Like Lowry's $45 million works because Ace Bailey or whoever the other kid we draft is are under cost control, and now you really have a roster. You've got to I don't think I explained that very well, but you've got to have a path by which you can get there in the next 4 or 5 years, and Lowry's a part of that path. If you eliminate the Lowry-type player, a really good top 1, 2, or 3 player, and you don't have, and you're completely barren, boy, it's a long way before the young kids come together. You need the young kids to come together while under cost control, while having someone on the roster, and then you'll have money to sign those other players. A good example that's not as sexy, but is what Oklahoma City did, overpaying Isaiah Hartenstein, maybe even overpaying Alex Caruso. They can do that because Chet and Jalen are under cost control right now. And so that's an example of what I'm talking about, not maybe as pronounced. I mean, I think I'm talking much more that, like, Lowry hits, Jaylen Brown becomes available, and Boston doesn't, continue. Boston really just turns the corner because Tatum can't come back or something. And now you add Jaylen Brown with Ace Bailey and Lowry Markkinen, and now the next kid hits, and Keontae's a rotation player, and Walker's your center. And everyone's 3 or 4 years older, and now you've got it. Now you've got something there, and you've built it. And Lowry's a part of that. I believe Lowry will be on the roster the next time the Jazz play a playoff game.
I get your point. Markkinen starting at $46 million, and he's going to $53 by the end of the deal. But that's also the end of Ace Bailey's rookie deal at $12 million. So if you're paying the 2 of them $65 million, and the team's really good, the $65 million number works. Even if the 53 looks way too high, the 12 looks way too low. So it works out.
Right. Here's kind of we'll have to have more data. But last year, the 4 teams that
were in the conference finals, their two best players combined for $85 million or less. All the teams that had somebody that was over $85 million ended up having a real ended up falling short in some way. Minnesota's trading of Karl Anthony Towns to go get two rotation players is, I think, the new style of trade that's important. It's where maybe Denver may have just done that with the Cam Johnson deal for Michael Porter, because they then also added Bruce Brown, and you're getting 50 minutes of play out of that. So that's where I think things are a little different now than they used to be, that your top two players are probably making 85. Your top three players are probably making about 110. Lowry, frankly, for most contending teams at $45 million or $50 million might be really hard to swallow. Lowry may be hard to move, but I think that's fine because I think he has a role for us.
There's David Locke. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are coming up. DJ and PK, we are brought to you in part by Black Desert Resort, our title sponsor and Utah's premier golf resort.